Hi, David.
Oh, hey, Dana.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll. God, is he funny?
One of the good dudes out there. And, this is one of the first ones. He was not on SNL, but he did Audition. And we're trying to get more into comics that are influenced and grew up on SNL.
Believe me, anyone who auditions for that show and doesn't get it, there's a story there.
Oh, they have something to talk about.
There's a story there.
Let's give him something to talk about.
Yeah, let's
Bonnie
give him
Raitt.
something to talk about.
Nick Kroll was, first of all, he does Big Mouth. That's a huge show. He's got his hands in so many things. It's hard to talk about how many he's done. But he's in Don't Worry, Darling, the most talked about movie of the summer.
Don't Worry, Darling?
That's the one with...
Oh, he is. Okay, so he's everywhere. He's on Broadway with John Mulaney.
Yeah.
He's. I did a show with him at the Largo, and he interviewed me.
Oh, yeah?
And he's so likable and funny, and I don't know. I'm just a fan.
I like when I go, oh, yeah?
Well, yeah. I don't want to gush.
No, that's...
But I do think SNL might have missed the boat, but I wasn't there. I wasn't a fly on the wall watching Nick Kroll do his magic, but...
sometimes they must
funny.
kick themselves because they do let a couple of winners go. And he's definitely great. He wrote for Chappelle's show. I saw a story about Don't Worry, Darling, and it was on Yahoo Sports. I'm like, I think everyone's covering this. All right, Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll. Hotels got expensive. The thing about Nick Kroll, which I really like, but some people don't. Hey, what?
I get. Look, I get
Nobody
it.
pops up like a Nick Kroll.
Well, I feel like I felt like I was a fly on the wall of your conversation.
Whoops.
What are we talking to state? We talking
No,
estate tax?
I'm going to Arizona for the Super Bowl because I'm from there. And I feel like it would be a real, boost to the state in general if I went. And they'd be so excited.
Oh, you'll drop
because
money there. Yeah.
I'm one of the biggest stars from Arizona. It goes Hugh Downs.
He's great.
And then
he's funny.
Barkley.
Yeah,
Who?
of course.
Charles Barkley played on the Suns there.
He played for the Suns, but he's not. Does he live there? He's got a residence
out
there.
San
ranking in the
Francisco's got
polls.
to clean up that stinky town. That's a stinky town. They got to clean
terrible.
that up. It's terrible. It's got that town stinks. They got to clean up San Francisco. Yeah, he's great.
Didn't he get? Did he get pulled over in Phoenix? Is that where he got pulled over? Do you know that story?
What happened? Did he say he's Elvis in this town?
No, I heard a story that he got pulled over in I want to say in Arizona speeding. Yeah. And they asked him what happened. He said he was going to get a blowjob.
The worst part was he was heading to my house. No, I was
That's
with him
what
once.
I
We
say
left.
to my-
We were Bobby McGee's. What do you say, Danny?
I
You
don't
do
want to
dirty
go
jokes.
blue on this podcast. It's supposed to be friendly and family friendly. Not anymore. Not with Kroll.
I was with
me.
Charles and we went to Bobby McGee's, which is an old place to go on Sundays where it's like, a couple toe tapper songs, playing a little Billy Ocean. And then we were going about 1,000 miles an hour on the way home. And I go, are you going to get pulled over? He goes, fuck that. I'm Elvis in this town. They're not going to do shit to me. And I was like, oh. And they didn't. And they didn't pull him over and nobody cared.
Everyone loves him.
Is this when you guys were still working on your Twins reboot?
I would do it in a second with him. This movie was terrible. No, they go, you want to do the LIV tour, the golf tour? And he goes, yeah, throw money at me. I love it. He just voluntarily gets in trouble just because he'll go, yeah, I'll do anything for a lot of money. And everyone's like, what?
Oh, he was great about the live golf thing and all. They
Yeah,
were
that's
after
so
him
funny.
and goes, if I got that kind of money, I'd stab my relatives. I'd stab a relative. That was it.
Does it frustrate you guys when someone like that, who's that physically talented as an athlete, is also genuinely funny? Like,
bugs the shit out of me.
The word is more
Nobody should get a
infuriating, right?
twofer. Nobody should get a twofer.
No.
I mean, we
Right?
happen to be, we're essentially narcissists, David and I. So we're not really skilled at this, but we're having a lot of fun doing it. You can ask us questions too.
Yeah, too.
But anyway,
Right.
you look fit. You look like you're...
Nick looks cool. And I thought I took off my hat because Nick's hair looks cool. And I'm like, fuck that. Look at this hair, dude. I just got it. Did.
I gotta work. I'm working on it. Well, can I ask a follow up? Do you mind if I follow up with you guys about something?
This is a conversation.
Athletes?
We don't have to interview. Yeah.
Were you guys both there for the Nancy Kerrigan
Yes.
episode?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, watching it. Yeah, watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the the best performance of any SNL, I think, in my mind. That was probably the best performance of any person to come on the show.
Right. And
Nancy Kerrigan.
And did Farley play her or what? What
really
was
out of left field.
How was that?
No, I will say one of the best sketches was Farley skating with her.
Oh, right. Was that in that? That was that episode, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yes.
We had a lot of hype for that episode. She was a huge deal. And we got a huge rating, and the show was not that good. And that
even as like
happens.
I was like that was like at my prime. Like I was obsessed with comedy, just like getting super into it, and I remember that episode being so excited, and one of the first times being like, that was not a good episode.
Even as a kid.
You were like 13.
Yeah, I was 13. I was like, this is not a strong one.
Not a strong one. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh man, everyone only remembers the best stuff. No one ever remembers how many a night. By the time we got to update, like the whole first act sucked. And luckily we had Dennis Miller, the cleanup king, Christ's sakes, Good Carvey. Got a couple giggles with the lady. Okay. Always had this mouth wash spray.
Yeah, he had Banaka.
Was he a Banaka boy?
He always had a spray thing. He was always, at least on the surface, very relaxed. We'd be drenched in sweat with glue and wigs, and we're a Friday night late. He goes, the cat and I, his wife was a nickname. We're going to go watch The King and I down at the Orpheum. And he was in a nice suit. No, there's only one Dennis. He is one of my favorite voices to do. My IQ does, or my vocabulary increases when I do Dennis. Because
it
of
is.
his,
well,
yeah.
I feel like I still remember when I think of my like many impressions, it's your impression of them. It's Topo Gigio. That's what I think of.
Topo Gigio.
Topo Gigio.
Topo Gigio. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That is a perfect N word. If anyone listening wants to learn Dennis Miller. Christ's sakes, you see Eddie Saul the other night? The Topo Gigio cat. It's actually some mouse, okay? I need a marsupial talking to a man with a hunchback, all right?
He would say, what am I, Glico? And I go, after 15 years, I go, what's Glico? Who's Glico? But it just sounds funny. It's got a K in it. I don't know.
What is it? Did he know?
No, I didn't dig enough, but I do know that he says,
remember him saying
Spudley.
Yeah.
He goes, what? Sometimes in my, because I opened for his black and white special. He had two specials. Rob Schneider opened for one, I opened for one because he was my favorite comic.
Rob Schneider.
Hey, let me get in there, Spade, and fucking hog the first one. So I go on the road with Dennis and just watch him crush every night. And then he goes, here's the 5 words I didn't know from this set. And then he goes, that one means nothing. Sometimes I throw one in just to throw off the fucking... the detectives in the crowd that are trying to fucking one-up me and tell their wife they know everything I say. I like to throw them a fucking curveball now and then.
Yeah.
So he says one that even he doesn't even know. He just makes it up, and then they stare at their wife, and the wife's like, what's that one? He's like, I don't know.
Well, I love when he does like a football player from 1954. I haven't seen movement like that since Nick from the Detroit Lions, the
John Brockington
linebacker, had 3 seasons before he blew out an MCL. Okay, Carvey.
Yeah, Nick. By the way,
Sorry,
that Nancy Kerrigan
our
show.
guest today is Nick Kroll.
No, it's okay. This is all it is anyway.
Yeah,
but
this is all it ever was.
I like this Nancy Kerrigan question because it wasn't even a question, but just the fact that it is hard. We did that with Dice Clay. We had a huge hype, and it just wasn't fucking clicking, and that's when everyone watches that don't normally watch,
right?
And when you're on
so
the show,
you feel
like,
this pressure, like, oh, we're gonna get new eyeballs, and then the episode is a stinker.
So you're watching SNL like at that early 90s, then is when it first emerged for you, and you're 12, 13, 14, whatever.
I'm watching it before then, really, but I am like at prime, like 91. I'm 13 years old, so I'm
perfect.
Just aching for it, like one and obsessed, truly obsessed. And again, when you're I think it's that age really locks in, because you're 13, you don't have shit to do on a Saturday night. Like that's it. That's the plan, or at least I didn't.
Oh no, yeah, that's it. I mean, things affect you so much harder as a young adolescent than at any other time in your life.
So it was deep for me. And that Nancy Kerrigan thing was such a, I mean, it's so funny that you bring up Dice, because it's like as if they're both athletes. I mean, it's like,
but it was more like
Dice
stunt
is a
casting.
comedian. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Dice made sense.
What does does he come in like, let me tell you guys how this is going to go. Is that,
well,
yeah,
he was kind of sweet. I mean, Nora Dunn chose to boycott that show, as you probably remember. So there was a huge controversy. I found him kind of sweet. He says, "Hey, thanks for being nice to me and Lovitz." I said, "I'll just go the opposite, find out who he is." But he was pretty funny. I go, "What do you get for a night? Stand up. You get $1 million?" And he always said, "What am I going to do with $1 million?" As a way to say, I'm getting more. What do you get for 2 nights? You get $2 million.
Who gets $1 million for one night?
What am I going to do? He was one of the first arena comedians for a while.
Right. Well, what he's going to do is buy a lot of weightlifting gloves. It turns out.
He translates that into gloves.
I saw him once at the West Side Comedy Store. Anyway, the comedy store they had at Westwood. So he comes up and he's in the whole thing. I'd never seen him. And then he does the cigarette thing around his head. He's hilarious. Like, for 3 minutes, he doesn't say a word. He was so charismatic. He does the thing, and then he goes, "I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you." And then Kennison followed him.
Well, but also, I feel like with Dice, the other thing was that it was like he could have gone 2 ways, because he also did like a Jerry Lewis, like there was 2 versions of Dice, right? Mm-hmm. The Gemini that we all know him to be, the two-sided man.
Yeah.
That he could have gone like, Fonzie or Jerry Lewis. And he chose Fonzie, I think probably closer to his heart.
And then his woman voice was really funny.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Dice. Here's one of my favorite jokes. He goes,
I'm sure Nick does it.
Hey, he goes, "This chick blowing me and going up and down, knobbing my gob. And in the middle of it, I go, 'Come on.' And she goes, 'What's the hurry?' They're all the meekest, saddest women. 'What's the hurry, Dice?'
So delicate. And
he goes, "What's the hurry, Dice? You got a bus to catch?" I go, "No, you do."
I thought my favorite line of his, which we'll probably have to cut from the podcast. And a lot of these rich guys come out gay later in life, Hey, I got a mansion, I got a yacht, I got all this stuff. What don't I got? Oh, I know. Balls across the nose. It's so specific.
I like when he goes, "I dream a genie." Nick, I just have to do one more.
Let our guest speak.
Happy to be here.
I saw him at a gig and I go, "You're out of your fucking mind. Why am I trying to construct jokes?" He goes, "You ever seen I Dream a Genie?" And I'm in the audience nodding my head. And he goes, "She's in the kitchen with her big tits and she's like, 'Hey, master, is there anything I can do for you?' And he goes, 'Oh, no, Genie, it's okay. You can go back in your butt. If she was my genie, it would be a little different.' 'Hey, master, is there anything I can do for you?' 'You know what, Genie? There is. You can make your tongue 8 feet long and lick my dick from the kitchen.'"
Our producer is laughing.
My first performing, actually, some of my first performing I remember is weirdly doing Dice for we were on a family trip. When you're on a family trip and there's like a van, like the tour guide has a microphone, everybody's in a tour bus and there's so the tour guide was gone. It was just me and my family. And I took the microphone and just started doing Dice for my siblings. I'm like 11 years old. And I'm like, "Little boy blue, he needed the money." The nursery rhymes were.
Yeah, those were killed. Yeah. Those are the basis of the foundation of the structure. It's really
like him and the Jerky Boys were very the first version of like viral that I like, because we were passing around those Jerky Boys
pranks, phone calls for people.
Oh my God. Yeah. "Frank Rizzo, open your fucking ears, Jack." He goes, "I'll suck your dick like Souvlaki." Like I just My wife, she's got.
Did you ever do prank phone calls with all your voices?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to call me and Andrew Goldberg, who I created Big Mouth with when we were that age. He was my best. We would do.
Applause.
I mean, Dana, we used to host talent shows as Wayne and Garth.
Oh, wait, let me guess. Which were you? Probably
do you want
Wayne.
to guess?
Probably
I was
Wayne.
Yeah. I was in that moment the alpha of that.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't the alpha. Not that Garth
No,
wasn't
I was the
quietly
guy
alpha.
next to the guy, which
And
is a
I
great
was
place to be.
Yeah, it was a great place. Looking back, I'm like, oh, that's the spot. That's the sweet spot. But we were just doing Wayne and Garth, but at like the talent show at my middle school. But we would also call WFAN, the sports radio in New York, and record them on a cassette tape and do them for each, and we would call up and, be like, I think Patrick Ewing should be playing point guard, and you'd start sort of slow and they'd be like, oh, okay, because he can see over the top. And meanwhile, little did we know that we were foreseeing what was going to happen with the NBA. And then we would get to, remember Andrew going one time, he's like, Anthony Mason, that's a very attractive man. I'd love to give him a bath in Jello. And they at that point is when they would cut us off.
But we go as far as you can.
Yeah, we get to the edge, but we used to call all the time. Did you guys prank call radio stations at all? Was that a thing?
Recently, Adam Ray, I was on his podcast. He asked me to call a local Chinese restaurant as Paul McCartney ordering. And it was just completely straight, and they didn't know it was, I was doing like this, we like some egg rolls, if you got it, some fried rice, that sort of thing, because we enjoy it so much. But they didn't have any idea it was somebody trying. They just go, okay.
It could really be Paul McCartney. They don't care. They're like, okay.
They don't care.
Okay.
They didn't
fucking
know.
done. Let's go.
Yeah. So Nancy Kerrigan, but what happened was
Nick Kroll.
No, Nick, let me tell you, Dana, a Nancy Kerrigan show, one of the funniest things is Farley's the skater, and I was excited because I was Scott Hamilton. And so we were
casting.
It was
Great
a good bit because Phil was maybe Vern Lundquist, and Phil, who's the master, and I got to sit right next to him.
Great
and we were
announcer.
doing our analysis. So Nancy Kerrigan's great. She literally has to do nothing in this sketch but skate well. And that was perfect because we're like, you're so funny in this. But she really didn't. She was great, but she didn't do anything. And Farley was surprisingly a good skater.
Yes.
So he's got a funny outfit. It's already funny.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, it's going really well. They're racking up the points, And then he falls and he gets really pissed off. And we go, ooh, that's going to hurt him. And then they play Pump Up the Jam. We're like, pump up the jam. They will, Vern. Oh, this is a perfect triaxle. And then he starts wiping out so many times. And then he picks her up and throws her, and it's a dummy, and she flies.
I thought
so fucking funny.
It was a great sketch.
Oh, it was great. That one was great, and the rest of them were sort of crumbling around her, but it's not her fault. Athlete guests are tough.
No. But you can't, when you're with Farley in a sketch and he's doing physical comedy, you just support the brilliance of Chris.
Well, it's also like something like skating, which is not something that everybody can do. It really is. But I'm like, oh, right. He's like a Midwestern boy. He probably grew up playing hockey. And so it's like I remember that. I remember him flinging that. I remember flinging that dummy. Every once in a while, there's the good. Who you guys were gone by the time. Like Peyton Manning, I was always like surprised that I was like, oh, he's he could really carry a joke
and move funny for such a big guy. He was dancing, and I think it was Will.
We had I was on this show, The League. It was a show about fantasy football, and
Bobby Bottle Service.
Oh God, he was, and we had all the athletes on. They all came through that show.
Oh, that's right.
All the football players, and it was, remember JJ Watt, and I was like this, and you're like, some of them were whatever, a little, but then some of them, you watch JJ Watt. He came in at the beginning of the week. He did one day. We were at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And then it was the week of the ESPYs, and he shot like 2 commercials and an ESPYs bit, and then came back at the end of the week for his last day. And by Friday, he was a markedly better actor. And you're like, really? These guys are so smart. They can learn that quick. You know what I mean? Like a guy like that over a week, like learns how to act. and you're like, oh, that's why you're one of the reasons beyond being a physical, like you're physically, they took a regular person and 25%ed them up, like, to scale. I was like, this is why you're so good. You learn.
They can also get coached by a director, and then they get knowledge and implement it. And so it's like on the field. And if the director says, do it like this, they go through their computer head and go, got it. And then some can really adapt.
And they compete. They compete with each other. After the fact, people will, or athletes will go, my SNL is better than yours, or, I did better than you. The one guy who peaked on air was Wayne Gretzky, who seemed very shy, very Canadian. And he's the one, we were doing a hockey sketch. I'd never been on skates in my life. And he's so Canadian nice. He got down on his knees and was lacing up my skates, and then Wayne Gretzky showed me how to hold the hockey stick.
Holy shit.
That was just ridiculous. But these athletes, there's a charisma to them,
I do remember that Elvis sketch from...
yes.
Was that Wayne Gretzky?
Wayne Gretzky Elvis sketch from that one, right? What was it? It was like
he was singing. There was some...
Was he on the beach?
Hawaii,
yeah.
It was like a Hawaii Elvis thing, right?
And he just hit it on air, where all of a sudden he's super charismatic and confident. Just peaked on air.
I mean, it makes sense. Also, you're like, oh, right, the greatest fucking goal scorer of all time is gonna like show up on the day.
Yeah,
be good at
just instinctually. Yeah. And Joe,
all I had.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you had Montana. Go ahead.
Montana wouldn't come out of his dressing room for a while because he didn't think he did well on the show. So it's like, could you go back and just say hello to Joe? I mean, that's how hard. And he did absolutely fine. And I caught a pass from Joe Montana in drag as a church lady. It was a thrill. But he wouldn't come out. He just felt bad, So they're so driven. So driven.
We had, I only had Michael Jordan, I think.
How was he?
Very
charismatic. The most, besides Mel Gibson in his prime, where the women on the show went crazy, Michael Jordan was the person. I mean, was
it charisma or just legend? Like, was
both.
He charismatic, or was it just like you understood that you were around this like phenom of
both? Yeah, I think we
understood it, and he understood it.
Yes,
he
seems like he would have been sort of boundaried, like not warm. But I have no.
It was fun to break through that because there were so many people wanted his autograph, and there were lines and there were issues. But I sat next to him and read through, and being around hands like that, like a triple hand, and he was always so competitive. He said to me, very seriously, he's towering over me, and he's Michael Jordan. He's a badass. And he goes, "Do you golf?" And I go, "Well, a little bit. What do you shoot?" I go, "Well, I'd be lucky to break 100. Long pause, staring at me, steely eyes. "You're not very good, are you?" It was kind of scary. But on the day of the show, I'll leave you with this. Live, we're behind the slats, and I could tell he's a little, I'd say for him, a little nervous maybe. And I said, if you get in trouble, just look at the card and read it off the card. That's no problem. Just read it off the card. Don't pretend. Just go right at the card. So you see people, and he did. But he had a great show. He has these guys have a lot of charisma, and you put them in a show, and you can't take your eyes off them.
Sure. I mean, but also I do think he seems like I could see him being. I thought he was going to turn to you during the read through and be like, "I'm going to get more laughs than you this week."
Yeah, I don't know.
Carvey did well during that first sketch, and then it got personal. I feel like that was every line in The Last Dance. It was like,
well, yeah.
All I remember is him looking at that laptop and laughing. Like they'd show him a scene and he goes, "Fuck." You know what I mean? Yeah. They'd play something for him. This guy said this about you, and he goes, "Yeah, okay."
So Nick, can we just for a second, because this is what when I was watching all your stuff, and we did our thing at the Largo.
Yes, we did.
And you interviewed me and stuff, and I noticed how versatile and explosive you were. Like when you committed, it was like bam, like you were gone, and then this intense character whooshing. And your resume is so stout. It seems, in a sense, that you were made to be on Saturday Night Live. But there's a catch spot where maybe you got too big to be on it early or something, or what? How did you audition for it officially a few times?
I did. I mean, I think, I don't know. You guys have probably had. I mean, like I think like everybody it's like if you are a comedian in, anytime like who was born anytime from like 1970 on, at some point you're like, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live as a, so that, yes, I had wanted it. And I, did improv in college, moved to New York, started doing stand-up and improv, and then started doing characters, like kind of like live presentational character work on stage. Not directly being like, I'm going to try to be on SNL, but it was like, I think that was with the sweet spot for me. And then I was on a show called Cavemen, the hit show Cavemen.
Oh, yes.
The Geico Cavemen commercial.
It's a famous show at this point.
Very famous show. We almost 7 episodes aired.
Hey,
7. I heard it was 7 months of makeup and then 1 hour taping.
Honestly, genuine. I mean, you guys have both been through the prosthetics. It's like it was 4 hours every morning. And it was, and we were in every scene. So it was 4 hours every morning for 4 months straight.
Motherfucker.
13 episodes, working 90-hour weeks or whatever it was. And I have intensely sensitive skin. And I think it traumatized my skin basically forever. So when it ended, it was right at the writer's strike in 2007. And
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, truly. It was, we got preempted for the Charlie Brown Christmas special, and I knew we were in trouble because the next week, or the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special, the week after, we were preempted for the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special. The week after Thanksgiving.
Can you refresh my memory about it for a second? Just
Caveman was based on the Geico.
Yeah, I know
Caveman,
that part. But
I got cast. I was not in the commercials. I got cast on the show. I just had gone out to LA for my first pilot season. And I got cast on the show. I was sort of the acerbic, lefty caveman.
Did you go in and read for them like a classic situation?
I just
what voice
auditioned.
Did you use? How did you?
Just me. It was like I was the sort of, it's this sort of I've gotten a lot of my gigs. It was sort of the deadpan, like, oh, really? Like,
okay.
Oh, really? Like, people like, the problem, everybody talks about like cavemen being these like, Cro-Magnon, but in reality, I have a higher IQ than everyone I went to fucking Stanford with, or whatever that, that sort of sarcastic, mean, dry. So that goes away. Thank God.
And Nick, in every episode, you guys try to get insurance.
Well, it was so funny because
you got to work that in.
We go for our first, the TCAs, the big television critics thing.
Oh no,
they're coaching all of us. We're at the Beverly Wilshire. They're coaching all of us to be like, all right, everybody get ready. They're going to come after us that it's a Geico TV show. You can be very clear. We're not sponsored by Geico.
Right.
We own the rights to it. Like it's its own thing. We're all prepared, being coached for it. We get up on stage and they're immediately, all the critics are like, why did you make such a racist show? And we're like, what? We thought we were making, they were making this allegory that it was, cavemen were a stand-in for all minorities, that like we've gotten discriminated against, where this the critics did not see it. And so we just got blindsided as like, your show is racist. And this is, I got to say, we were ahead of the game of being called racist for a TV show.
That's an early racist show.
Smart.
2008? 2007?
This is 2007. We're talking early. This is pre.
Wow.
So
there wasn't even racism yet, was there?
No, there wasn't.
It was kind of racist as a show. I mean, a little bit. I mean, I want to.
I mean, I was involved, so clearly there was going to be racism in it. So that goes away. Then now I'm sort of a free agent again, and I started booking stuff. Like I was like, oh, I felt like I was gonna work, Then I got a call. Me and Mulaney got a call the same day from Seth Meyers. I had met Seth in New York. He'd seen me do some character stuff, and Mulaney had also done some stuff. Seth had seen him around, and he wanted to invite us to audition. We were at that moment pitching a movie with Tracy Morgan that maybe one day we'll make. It was Mulaney and I had this idea for those Nigerian email scams, the Nigerian Prince email scams. This is the one time that it's real. So it's Tracy Morgan as Lil Mo, the deposed dictator from Lairobia.
That's funny.
A kind of a baby Doc Duvalier,
Labia.
kind of a ne'er-do-well. And kids, they get this email, most glorious friend, I have $20 million that must be. And then they, all of a sudden there's $20 million in the bank account, and Tracy Morgan shows up at their college being like, where's my money? And
Ted Sarandos, if you're listening.
Yeah. By the way, well, you two writing a movie, everyone should just say yes. I don't have to hear the pitch.
You know, by the way, so we pitch it. We're with Tracy. I don't know if you know.
We know Tracy. Yeah.
You know, Tracy with his little hands. He's got those little hands resting on his belly. He's taking a nap at taking a little rest at 3 Arts. You know, in the middle of the pitch, in between pitches, and we go, Tracy, what's going on? He goes, I will not lead a life of quiet solitude. And we pitched him the movie, by the way, the first time we went to his apartment in New York, the one that burned down because a fish tank lit on fire. And we go to his...
the shark farted or something?
Yeah, the Rats of Nim. Is that what it's called? Playing quietly in the corner. One of his movies a poster taped up of it. And he's taking us around to all of these are all predators. You know, he's got his shark tank and his eel tank.
Uh-huh.
And we pitched the movie, and we get a call that day being like, do you guys want to audition for SNL? And we were both obviously not together, but we were of course excited. And so then we spent a few days working on our audition in LA, and then flew to New York, and I went to audition. I go in. It was during the Olympics, so we weren't on the SNL stages. We were at the Conan stage, I guess, upstairs. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was the same year. It was me, Mulaney, Bobby Moynihan is the one who got it that year. Jordan Peele. Unfortunately, obviously, that was the end of his career.
God, it's too bad. So talented.
Hit a wall.
Yeah, Ellie Kemper, a bunch of other very talented, now successful folks.
All should have gone right on.
How did that work? It was like, did you get a number like you're up first, second, third?
It was one of you get in the room. It was a bigger number. I don't know. There was probably 20 of us or something.
And how many people in
really?
the audience in the bleachers?
Well, we go, you get called in groups of 4, and then the rest of you are all waiting. So we get called in groups of 4. I get called in somewhere in the middle, and I'm waiting backstage. There's, a grip, one of the union guys backstage. He goes, "You going to do John Lovitz?" And I go, and I go, "I'm going to do Lyle Lovitz, the love child of John Lovitz and Lyle Lovitz." And he looks at me and goes, "Save it for the stage." And I'm like, Jesus,
what the
I'm
fuck?
getting fucking roasted before I get out there.
Who was it? Was that Bill Hader in a costume or something trying to sabotage you?
It's Bobby Van Rye.
So then they call me out. I get out there, and it's just Lorne.
Shut up.
And I'm like,
literally just Lorne?
It's just Lorne. And he goes, they're outside. I'm not going to do Lorne with you guys.
Go ahead. I do it badly, but I do it all day.
Okay. So he's like, they're all outside, and I'm like, what? I'm doing more. I'm leaning into the Canadian version of Lorne.
That's all right.
I'm not going to do the. So I go, they're outside. He goes, yeah, they're outside. I was like, are they out there talking about how great I am? And he's like, what? And I'm like,
no.
And then the stage manager comes over. He goes, I'm sorry, they're on a bathroom break. I shouldn't have pulled you out. So then I have to go back.
Fucking stage manager.
They fucking iced me.
You.
And Lauren and I've just my first, I'm trying to. My instinct when I get nervous is to be falsely confident.
Yeah. Right.
They're out there talking about how great. You know what I mean?
I got that. Move.
Which is a funny thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that moment, he wasn't a rude, but he also was like, you guys would know him better than me. I don't know what he's thinking, but he's not thinking like, you know what? I'm going to give this kid the laugh he needs right now.
That's so weird, Nick, that you go
Mike
out.
Shoemaker has diarrhea.
Oh, I'll be like Howard Stern. So you go out and half the people had left to go to the bathroom, and you just see Lorne, and then he goes, they're all outside, not explaining anything else. So you go, are they talking about how great I am? And then what happened?
And then they send me back. They send me back
into the wings.
After the wings to wait for another few minutes for everybody to file back in. And then I come back out and I do my audition, and my audition was good, not great. Like I know in my heart, like as much as I was a character guy, I just, I don't know. It just wasn't, it wasn't fire.
Well,
I just
it's
know
the roughest audience. You're getting no feedback because I did one in
How
a
was your
club.
Lovitz?
Oh,
I didn't do Lovitz.
Lauren would have liked that. But that's hard to land that because it's an oil painting, right? Maybe a couple little giggles. You go. What was your biggest bit at that time? Your biggest surefire character?
Go-to.
I was doing. I don't know if I had Bobby Bottle Service yet. I was doing my character that I was doing a lot that I would probably not do now anymore was a character named Fabrice. He was the craft services coordinator for That's So Raven, and he was sort of like if it was like a sort of like definitely a character I would not start doing now, which was a queer Latino, like those kids in New York, like I'd see on the subway who were just like tough as nails, young, like queer kids of color who were just, I was like, nobody is sharper or funnier or meaner than these kids. You know what I mean? Those, like, if you saw them walking down the street, they're like, oh no, they're going to make fun of my hair. They're going to make fun of me. And they're going to, he was my like filterless character. I could say anything about anyone. It was my closest to being David Spade that I could be. But I had to hide behind this character. So I did that. I had a few other characters. I was doing some version of Gil Faison from that me and Mulaney were doing with Oh Hello. My Upper West Side, middle-aged, or septuagenarian. I was doing Holiday Connick Jr. It was a Harry Connick Jr. just doing holiday songs. I don't even remember a few other ones. It was, I was fine. It was
like them.
I've always been I'm a kind of guy you gotta like, I was like, if you put me on, there's no way I could have told Lauren if I was just like, the audition's going to be fine, but just put me on, you know what I mean?
Just put me on the show.
Just put me on the show. It'll be fine. So, but I, at that point, was really a performer. John auditioned and got cast as a writer, but had made it clear I would write. I was not putting myself out there to write. But I knew it was going to be okay. Like, I was like, I think I felt at that point secure that I was going to have a career, but it was the lifelong dream was to be on SNL. It still is. I mean, I had my own sketch show on Comedy Central, and there was a part of me that if it was like, if Lauren came to me being like, leave the sketch show, come be on Saturday Night Live as like a featured player, I would have done it. You know what I mean? It was that. Right. It holds that power and mystique for me still. And then John got hired, and so then I started, and then I had other friends getting hired around then, and I started to become friends. I shot a movie with Forte and Sudeikis the next year, called A Good Old Fashioned Orgy, and then through that, and Jesse Klein, who Spade, Jesse had gotten hired to be on your show on Comedy Central,
the Showbiz show,
the Showbiz show, and she got hired there as well, and all my, so my audition was, it's one of those things. It's just like, I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked to everybody who's, I don't know. Does everybody have dreams of being on the show?
It's whimsical, and there's a lot of inputs into that moment. How was Lauren feeling? Did someone say something sarcastic? What's the mood? What's the vibe? And
what did they need?
And what did they need at the time? And
they had at that,
maybe.
At that point they had Armisen, Seth, Hader, Sandberg, Sudeikis. I mean, let alone Forte.
So were they trying to add another male cast member, or looking for women?
They needed, I mean, they hired Bobby Moynihan, frankly, as Bobby would say, they needed a big guy. They needed a big boy.
Yeah, that's true.
And every version of me was there. So I was not like, I knew, and maybe, I don't know if you guys like manifest or don't, like I'm pretty like, I don't think like that. I'm not like, today I'm going to be a cast on Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean? It just was like, I was like, oh, they don't need me right now. You know, maybe
well, that's like a gut thing. It might just be true. You realize they've got, like you said, if they have every version of what you do, they're like, God, it is another person, but sometimes there's just too many. And they go, maybe we'll use them next year, which doesn't help you. I have a question, two questions.
Yes.
One is, do you get a time limit? Does everyone say you can do whatever you want in 6 minutes?
Yes.
Or does...
I remember it being, I want to say it was 5 minutes. And I think we were pretty orthodox about that time limit. You know,
well, because if
like,
there's 20, that would be... I've only been to this comedy clubs. I think we went to see Louis C.K. and we rolled in a little late. And the worst part is everyone's like at dinner, and on the opposite side of the people coming in behind Lauren to watch you, they're just like, hey, let's go to Huxley's later. Oh, we're going to watch a couple of these guys. It's literally nothing to them almost. You know what I mean? It's so... And then they roll in just half thinking, half like, oh, yeah, these are auditions, and your whole month is studying for this. That's truly scary. And when you don't get... I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead, please.
When you don't get something like that, is there any weirdness that you have to have? Does Seth call you, or does he say sorry, or...
I remember getting a call, I think, from my agents and finding out that I didn't get it, and then I think that John was getting hired as a writer. And, you know, with all of your comedy buddies, especially John, who I've known since college. We did improv together in college. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and I always knew he was the funniest person from then on. And I was so happy for him, but you know, you couldn't help but feel some tinge of jealousy or envy. And as I did for his whole run on SNL, like, couldn't be happier, more proud of him, and simultaneously like feeling like he had been invited into the club that I was not. And that even though I have always felt incredibly welcomed by literally everyone there, like including Lauren, has always been very nice to me. It's like I've always felt like not uncomfortable in that space. You know what I mean? I never felt that, you know, I think there are people who are like, oh, I didn't get it. And then I never felt like I was welcome. Like I just always knew everyone there. And I felt like it just happened that I was not one of the people that got it, you know?
Well, I auditioned with Jim Carrey and he didn't get it. And he went out there and levitated the room and put his foot behind his thing and all these impressions. And Phil and I were backstage going, well, okay, Jim's on it, you know. And so, so for whatever reason, and then the great thing is you have so much stuff out there. I mean, your resume is huge.
No, it ultimately, and I went and did the league, and then I had my own sketch show.
The league is famous now. I mean, it's like got a cult following.
And my sketch show was my thing that was different than, you know, what was different than anything I would have done at SNL, and I'm very proud of, but also it's just that, you know, it's also changed over time. I think especially when you guys were on it, there were only so many venues that you had to, like, if you weren't on SNL,
there's nothing.
There's nothing like to make you pop through unless you became like the biggest stand-up or whatever. You know, by the time I was around, I was coming of age and all that. It was like you could have a sketch show on Comedy Central. You could get on the Daily Show. You could you could even start to be on internet videos that started to, like, you know, Donald Glover gets on like a sketch that blows up, and all of a sudden on not even on YouTube, and then all of a sudden there all of a sudden it didn't feel like, oh no, if you don't get SNL, that's that, you know. You're going to toil.
No. And for people who are listening, they're just getting acquainted with Nick Kroll. Check out The Kroll Show and The League. And you've done all this animation, and just touching on this briefly, but Big Mouth is a smash, let's face it.
Yeah.
Which is about...
It's bigger than the show Smash.
It's bigger than the show Smash. Ted Sarandos will not stop talking about it when we have dinner with him. When we first started with Big Mouth, you know, Nick Kroll, you know, he's a friend of mine. I have his number. Do you want to see it? But that you've done so many and stand-up specials. So I guess for a second, you have a new one coming out. This is kind of interesting.
Yes. It's my first special. I did a special for Comedy Central before. It was kind of a backdoor pilot for Kroll Show called Thank You Very Cool. in like 2012. It was a mix of stand-up and characters. Kind of, it was a hybrid special at the time, which functioned as a sort of Comedy Central being like, oh, okay, let's give him, I got a sketch show out of it. And then, but it's my first special in 10 or more years. It's called Little Big Boy for Netflix. And
how did you warm up for it then? What did you tour? Did you just go to the Largo every night, or what? How did you work on?
I had been doing stand-up kind of as I wouldn't call it a hobby. I always had 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, you're not touring, but you always have 20 minutes. Yeah, like I could always go to Largo and do someone's show, or Oddball. There was that big tour, Oddball. And
did you do the Oddball tour?
I did it one year with, it was a year with me, Aziz, Schumer, Mulaney did
Brody,
Jezelnik. It was a bunch of, excuse me.
Was that fun? That sounded like kind of a fun
It was
tour.
fun.
That's a good show.
Because I was not in talk about arenas. It was all those outdoor sheds. It was like those 12,000, 15,000 seaters.
Wow.
I mean, you could have done arenas. It's so funny. It'd probably be easier. Sometimes outdoors are tough when I do them.
It was, and we were all, and they were flying us on all of us on a plane together. It was super fun.
That was fun.
And that was still at a time when that was new to me. And I was with my contemporaries. Those are all the people like, Amy and Aziz and Mulaney and I and Jezelnik. We were all doing not open mics together. I mean, some of them I was doing, we were all started together so that we were all of a sudden playing these massive venues together. So, but I always had like 20, but I was sort of like, and around 2018, my girlfriend was like, she's like, why don't you do an hour? And I was like, I'm not the hour guy. It's like, that's Ali, Ali Wong or Mulaney or the guy, the Jezelnik. Those are the stand-ups. Like, they're stand-ups. That's what they do. That's who they are. I do stand-up because I like to do it. But I got other shit I got to do. I've always been lucky to be working as an actor or writing, producing. So, and then I was sort of like, I don't have a good reason for this. And I kind of was like, I'm going to commit to it. And so 2019, I assembled all the stuff those 20 minutes and started building it, built the hour, and then toured it properly, did a real tour, and then did Australia, New Zealand, London, came back.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Top of 2020, and was like, all right, I'm going to shoot it in June 2020. And then, I don't know, do you guys remember
the pandemic?
Yes,
COVID.
That's what it was. That's what it's called. And it shut it all down. And, the special, the tour was called Middle-Aged Boy. It was all about me. Am I a man or a boy? Kind of, I'm 40. At that point, I was 41. I hadn't gotten married, hadn't had kids, hadn't figured anything out. And then the pandemic happened, and then I ended up marrying my girlfriend, having a baby with my girlfriend. And so when the world opened up again, all of that material then...
Oh, no. Wow.
Ruined.
It's so hard to come up with material.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't get married. I want to do my act forever.
Yeah. So, but it ended up informing the act, and it became about this larger thing. And so then I toured it the last year, kind of picking and popping in and doing a weekend in Texas, so Phoenix, and then I shot it at the Warner Theater in DC in June, and now it comes out on September 27th.
So can I ask you, sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
So here you are, you're so accomplished, you've done all this stuff, and Oh Hello show with Mulaney and everything. And so now you're doing this special. And so what was it about it that you wanted to achieve? Like, are there moments of it you go, wow, this is really a next level of stand-up? Or did you feel you hit some areas you hadn't done before, more vulnerable, or anything like that?
Yeah. I think what I learned, the lesson I got out of Big Mouth, which, it's this animated show about me and my buddy Andrew Goldberg I mentioned earlier, going through puberty. So it was 13-year-olds, and we were one of the first things on Netflix after animated shows, after BoJack, and they really wanted us to go for it. It's super dirty, incredibly dirty,
and
but also
sweet
very,
at the same time.
very emotional. It's a very honest and I.
Who plays your pubic hairs? Or there's
Jack McBrayer and Craig Robinson are my pubes.
Yeah, got it. Okay, just so people to know.
I don't know if I read for that.
You did.
You lived it.
You sent us some pubic hair. I thought which was very
Garth
kind
just
of you.
got
I didn't
pubes.
understand the audition. I go, here's
No.
my pubes.
That was
Yeah.
in
If
Wayne's,
you like it, I'll
Wayne's
come
World
in.
too. I was 38. I opened the script and Wayne goes, Garth just got pubes. I'm 38. I go to Mike. I go, what? Okay. But anyway,
Yeah.
so back to you, Nick. So how did you try to, how did you feel
So
about it?
but the lesson I learned from Big Mouth, because what I found was I got rewarded from people, audiences being like, feedback was like, it's so vulnerable. You being so vulnerable, and out of that vulnerability came some real, I think, both very funny but also very emotional stuff. And I think Dana, this, and
David
I think we all
does.
have, like, as a comedian, you have you figure out how to have be funny and protect yourself. David, I know you're always very open, and you're never protecting yourself.
Yeah.
You're very
Thank you,
vulnerable
Nick.
on stage.
Yes.
But I think when you're a character guy, you got your characters. You get to say everything you could never say as yourself through your characters.
Mhm.
The wall. We find a way to have our walls up to protect ourselves, I think. And I realized with Big Mouth, the more vulnerable I was, the more I was finding gratification in being honest and transparent about stuff. And some of my favorite stand-ups are the ones who figure out how to share some version of themselves that they're not, that feels real to an audience.
Well, what
tricky.
was an area you went to that kind of exposed that? You can do it. Not you don't have to do it like in a funny way, but just the subject.
I mean, I started, like, I have a premise in there of, like, there's a bunch of stuff. I ended up telling a story about getting my breakup. I got dumped like 10 years ago, and there's a story that didn't make the special that inspired it, which was like I'd gotten dumped, and then
How did you get dumped? Text?
we went to a wedding together, and then came home from the wedding, and
She was the one getting married. And you go, hey.
yeah, we
That
went
was
to
the
wedding,
first
and
clue.
Dude, that was the first clue. She was marrying another man, and she wanted me to be the ring bearer in, like, a little doily dress, and so I felt frankly, I felt a little emasculated. But she just done. The whole joke is, I mean, it's true. Is she says, "I'm just not attracted to you."
That's a
which
rough
led
one.
to it was
That's a rough one. Yeah.
it was a rough one. I talk about this story. I won't do the bit, but it's, does anyone look in the mirror and feel good about what they see? I ask the audience, and I just sort of start to go into, whatever the insecurities that I feel about myself, what the inner voice that now in the special is Jason Statham. For some reason, the voice that I hear when I look in
So
the
your
mirror is-
alter ego talking to you talks like Jason.
Look at you. Look at you.
That's really good.
Do more of that for a second. I
Yeah,
love it.
can you do the whole special real quick? Just 1 hour.
of course. Well, we'll just release it on the podcast. So,
Ooh.
Look at you, red Rashi.
So he's just putting you down like crazy. That's a great premise
fucking
with
crushing
that voice.
crushing me.
So that's funny.
I
as
just
hell.
love Jathan's statement. I never hear anyone
That's
do that.
funny
Yeah, it was-
and real. Yeah.
Jay,
Look,
Jimmy,
let me hear
what's his name?
More Jason. What you guys want to talk about?
What would Jason say about our Fly on the Wall podcast?
I love it. I love getting the inside scoop on a show I never gave a fuck about. For me, it begins and ends with Benny Hill. I was the little old man on Benny Hill.
So you
Go ahead.
All right, now I'm getting mad
you
about
have that
it. Okay.
skill set of when you do the character, then you can write as the character in real time.
Much easier.
Yeah.
That's hard.
So
though.
you
It's
can
hard
For
write
me
by
and you,
doing
you too,
improv.
Dana, right? I mean, it's much easier to write as the character.
Yes, definitely. But I noticed that
Very
with you
much.
too.
It's filterless. I'm able to enter a flow state,
Yeah.
if I may say something that terribly new age, is when I get into if I'm really in it in character, the filter is removed and I can sort of
Yes.
go and say
That's
anything.
fun.
I believe it's a mild form of self-hypnosis. If you're in a car with friends for hours and you're just, this stuff is coming out of you where you're not even thinking in a character, it's a very exciting place to be. That's really funny. So the special, Little Big Boy.
Yeah. So the special is much more vulnerable, much more honest. I've been as myself. It was really like, because I used to do the show, my stand-up would always be like a way to get into characters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this was, you know, an attempt to do something, and I wanted to just do it. I wanted to be like, no, I'll put myself up here and just, you know, like I'll put myself up and you know, and so we did it.
Well,
So-
Lorne Michaels would say you have a lot of goodwill. In other words, your audience loves you, so they're going to go with it. But did you like the way, without throwing anyone under the bus, the way it was shot, the way it felt, the way you looked at it? Was it hard to edit it, or did you like the vibe?
Watch yourself.
Because it's hard to shoot a special with the lighting, the audience, and how many shows did you do?
It's always your least favorite show. I don't know if you guys have had this.
Yeah.
It's always your least
worst
favorite show of the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And luckily I saved DC. DC's a great comedy, in my mind, a great comedy town.
I played there.
They're smart, but they're not like jaded like New York or LA.
Mm-hmm.
I had been the truth is I had just come off of Mel Brooks asked me to do History of the World Part 2 as a sketch show for Hulu. So
what?
Yeah, so we just wrapped that before I shot. So it's me. I brought in Wanda Sykes to produce it and star in as well, and Ike Barinholtz and his writing partner Dave Stassen, and then we gathered a bunch of people to be in it.
Damn! Did
we
you
wanted,
did you
we
know
wanted
him?
Dana? We had, I don't know if you know this. We asked you to be Howard Cosell in a bit.
That never got to me. I would have done it.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Right,
and down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
We got of course the next choice, of course, David Duchovny, who's actually was a very funny.
I love David Duchovny.
Yeah, he's great. But
funny.
we went so
God, that's
we shot
awesome.
it as a series, as an 8-episode series for Hulu, and so we had shot that. I'd forgot what it was like to make a sketch show. It's so fucking exhausting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just so we shot that, and then I basically had to run right into shooting the special. So I was just, frankly, I didn't have enough time or energy to be too.
That's good.
I just sort of, in a good way, I was sort of like, I did as many shows as I could leading up to it. Some of them good, some of them bad, just to remember the show. And then,
Of course.
my
And then you
buddy
go, just
Bill-
make sure you tell your people, make sure the one I tape is the fucking worst one. And they go, okay, we'll figure out how to do that.
No
Well,
worries.
make sure they have the cowboy shot at all times, because with mine they forgot to do the Carson, the classic talk show host shot, like
Really?
upper thigh. So it was just either head to toe or kind of chest or
Close
neck
up of his eyes.
Yeah, it took me 2 weeks to get it even watchable, because everyone has a 60-inch, 8K. And then my face at, way after the age of 60, just right in your living room, and things are popping
They're
out like you wouldn't
holy
believe.
shit.
But it sounds like you're so big. Did Mel Brooks, did you know him before this, or did you get his, hey, it's Mel Brooks calling. How are you, kid?
Hi, yes, hello, hi.
No, he
good,
actually
too.
came and saw Oh Hello.
Oh, so he must have loved
I had
you,
a meeting with him.
Okay.
Me and Mulaney had a meeting with him, and he gave us a box of Raisinets when we left.
Jeez.
And he came to
you.
see Oh Hello, and then I saw him present Blazing Saddles at Radio City. He had met him a few times, and
Wow.
Did they win a Golden Fart Award?
did it?
I'll take it out. I'll take it out.
Take it out.
He and that, I mean, for me, it's SNL and Mel Brooks. Frankly, there's nothing more. There's nothing, and when I look at there's nothing more impactful, and like the producers, Blazing Saddles,
Young Frankenstein.
and History of the World were
Mhm.
massive for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I know those movies by heart.
Yeah.
And the producers ended up being for me, the biggest one for a long period of time in my life. That the Gene Wilder,
Mhm.
Max Bialy, the Gene Wilder, Zero Mostel relationship. It's like, I can't tell you how. So
Yeah.
having him come to us was
That's
massive.
awesome. So the special is kind of like a throwaway at that point. But that's
like,
a
who
good way to do a
fucking cares?
special. Who cares?
It was. It didn't allow you to think too much about it. But with the specials, like you watch it. I have to watch it a few times just to look at my fucking ugly face before I can give notes on the you know what I mean? You just watch it and you're like, All I can
Pull
see
back.
is my hairline and my double chin. That's all I see.
Well,
the first.
I can't. If I go on a show and I feel like I should look at it, I put a iPad like 8 feet away from me, and then I'll watch it like from 8 feet away, because I don't need to know what I look like at this point in life. So,
But that's
be
what it's like.
reminded.
What are we doing?
Why do we
nobody's-
care?
Nobody's watching
I'm
us
not
to look at
Raquel
what
Welch.
we fucking look alike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares. But the comedians,
we're more vain than the Brad
I
Pitts.
know.
Yeah, and then one person says you look good on, and you go, really? So gross. I know I did.
Hey, look,
Yeah,
Because
right?
I only had one person say it. But when I did my Nick, they go, I had my opener up there who does a good job, and I was like, in the back, we're kind of talking, and I finally stop and I go, listen, guys, what's that? And I go, exactly, nothing. Why isn't he getting laughs? And then I go, he's bombing? God damn. So I go up there to do it, and my first 10 minutes is work. And when you're up there and you're after your second joke, in my head, all I think is, this is my special,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing well at my own show.
Yeah.
And so I go, gross. And then afterwards they go, you do know they all were required to wear N95s. I go, what? And they go,
Oh,
well,
my
they took their
God.
masks away and gave them the heavy duty ones they used to do drywall.
Jesus.
And I go, well, and then they go, and they had them face the other way just for precautionary reasons. And I go, well, so and they
they-
told them not to laugh. But other than that, it's
Your
just like a
special should
regular
have been
show.
called N95.
Oh my
David
God.
Spade's N95, but
So they go, we can of course put fake laughs in later, make it look like you did good. And I go, no, I did fine. I think and I don't want fake laughs because it's more for the people at home and stuff. So I go, just play it the way it is, and people like the jokes or they don't. But it was a little bit of a kick in the
But there's that
nutsack.
energy. There's just the feedback from an
Yeah, and you want them to
audience
go
that
crazy where everything
I'm
works, and
fighting
they're
it
like,
too much. I should just come out as a church lady, open it up, do a quick change.
I'm fighting
no,
it
because
too much.
why am I fighting that? And then come out as Garth, and yeah, I should do a special. Just call it, what you really want to see.
The hits.
Yeah, and I'm always
Give him
doing
Dana Carvey, give him the hits.
Give me the hits, okay?
when Hall & Oates is there, they go, oh, you want to hear Rich Girl now? And everyone goes, yes.
The
Yeah.
thing
They go,
about
"Oh,
Nick
okay."
Kroll, he's got a show called Big Mouth. With the kids, haven't got any pubes, and they're going around saying, "How are you? How's your pubes?" It's a very funny show. We love it.
I read for the butthole.
We
Anyway,
Thank you for sending us a picture of your butthole, by the way. Again,
I
you
said,
just need to
if
read
you need it.
here's my prediction for Nick Kroll.
Yes.
Before the 50th, which is 3 years
Whoa.
from now, and I think it
More.
could happen sooner.
More. Oh, the 50th.
50th
Okay, I was like, I'm not
anniversary of
50 yet.
SNL.
Yeah.
Before probably, but for sure before that, you will host SNL
Whoa.
That's very.
because
That's
it's
a
a
ballsy
critical
statement.
mass that you're at. And I think I haven't
Yeah.
seen your special, but all this stuff, all these years, it just seems like a natural thing. So
You
I
could
don't.
host
I
next
hope I
week,
didn't
no one would
jinx it by
blink.
saying that.
Yeah.
You're whatever.
Perfect
I mean,
fit.
it is a it's one of those things that is like. It would be very nice. It would be a real.
Would it scare the shit out of you or not?
No, I mean it would be scary because it's just so being on live like none
Yeah.
of that scares me, but the place doesn't scare me, but it's like
History.
I get more scared giving a toast at a wedding, a friend's wedding
That's
than I
scary.
do
Yeah.
than I do like going on stage for 1,500 people, like because it just feels more important.
I get scared
Like-
eating toast.
You really? You
Not
scared about the
really.
roof of your mouth? You know,
It was
you
too
might-
crunchy.
Here's me.
You might-
Here's me. 10 minutes from now, calling Lorne Michaels. Yeah, we just had Nick Kroll on. He's so likable. He's so funny. I think you should really have him to host. Right. No, I'm kidding. We're big fans here, and I think he would be terrific.
I like when you want to redo your audition and have them go, we aren't starting. Everyone's in the bathroom. And you go, oh, you're going to hold it? And then it's just dead silence. And you go, I'll be on the wings. I'll be over there.
I wish I had
You
said
just
that.
relive different things you say that he doesn't laugh at.
Oh my god! I don't think there's a thing I can say that. Going back and playing that out. I don't know if there's a win for me on that.
You
one.
nailed it, though, and it just didn't. I think he probably wasn't listening, and he's like, what's
But it's
that?
also I don't know what it was for you guys. You were in clubs. It's blinding light. Like I
Sick.
couldn't even see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could just hear
It's a
the
horror
voice.
film.
It's a
I know, and you're up there jumping around like John Bonet and no one's laughing.
If you host the show, Nick, right before you come out, Lauren will be in the wings and he'll go, "They're all gone." And then just walk away.
The crowd?
Lauren will just say the same thing he said. Was that the thing he said?
I would be thrilled.
Nobody's here.
They're all gone.
They're all gone.
Dave, Spade, did you ever do John Bonet on the show?
John,
I dated her briefly right before before the murder. No, John Bonet was just always like a go-to funny in quotes reference.
It's
I
a
used
great
to have in my act, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" But most of the time, people would laugh at it. But I remember my first special. I go, John Bonet. I saw her in the Inquirer after it happened, and I go, she wasn't as hot without makeup, and everyone's like, "Excuse me?" And I go, she was pretty. She wasn't a stunner. I mean, she had the basic fat bones, and I go, by the way, not super talented. She was good, not a super talent. I think it was a lot of hype, and then everyone's like, "Wasn't she 5? And you're doing jokes about her?" And I go, "Yeah, I guess. I don't know." Anyway, here's Michael J. Fox. Hey, Sarge. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just ripped my headphones out.
Hey, Sarge.
All right, we have to let Nick go because he's got 15 shows.
Nick, you're awesome. And
let this poor guy go.
So
He's been
much
I
fun.
enjoy the show. I've enjoyed both of you in all of
Thank
your
you,
forms
Nick.
for many, many years. So I am genuinely tickled and grateful to be on it with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Very cool.
All right, buddy. That's very nice.
Enjoyed
and we'll see you out there. And
See you
good
guys
luck with the
probably at the
special.
store.
I like this.
I'll probably
I like
see
to
you guys
say
at the
this.
store.
Hey, Nick, see you around campus.
Yeah, see you around
Yeah.
campus. Hey, you know what? I like to go to. It's like my gym. That's where I go to work out. Yeah, I go to the store.
Yeah, remember.
I stand in the store in the hallway, and I go, they go, "What's up?" I go, "Just running my new hour." I don't even have one. Just sounds cool.
It's always so competitive over there. I don't like playing those places. Everyone's
I'll
like,
see you guys on a weird Netflix as a joke Zoom cocktail party.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I'll
Okay.
see you at Ted's house.
All right.
Okay, bye, Dana. Bye,
Bye,
Nick.
guys.
goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Adam, what's
Bye.
Hey, what's up, flies? What's up, fleas? What's up, people that listen? We want to hear from you and your dumb questions.
Questions, ask us anything. Anything you want.
You can email us at flyonthewall@cadence13.com.
You got questions. You got questions. Questions. You know, kind of like a Letterman.
We
thing.
get questions. Some are shitty.
Let's do it together. We get
Okay.
questions. 1, 2, 3.
We get questions.
Could have
Not
been
bad.
worse.
Could have been. Many listeners have written in about the goodbyes at the end. That's what we call them the good nights.
The good nights, and when you're backstage and it's like 11:28, you'll hear good cast for the good nights. Cast for the good nights, and then you hear that music that's kind of like sad and weird and very
Yeah, it's like
melancholy.
dun,
Doon doon. It's over. It'll all be over soon.
Yeah.
Who fucking wrote that thing?
Probably Cheryl or GE.
Oh, Cheryl. And I love GE.
Okay, we didn't finish the question. The credits roll and the host, musical guest, the cast, we hug, chat on stage. Is it awkward? Any stories? Well, the first 2 years for me, I didn't want to be in the front because it looks too thirsty and embarrassing. So I'd run in the back with Adam and whoever. Farley would sort of eventually, within milliseconds, get to the front. And we'd always talk to each other and go, I go, "Farley, you going to run and hug Tom Hanks, or are you going to climb on his shoulders because you're doing something obvious right in front of the camera?" "No." "You are."
He's so shameless.
And then we would all just go, who's going to be the first one to squeeze up to the front and give him a hug, or get stiffed, where you go to hug him on camera and they turn
they
over here to hug
turn.
Kevin Neal and you go,
Oh, Sinead O'Connor, what?
I know.
Yeah, I didn't want to be. It was kind of embarrassing. Here's the deal, show. It's Ross Perot. Here's the deal. We just did a show 90 years before, and we did the good nights. We did the pretend
we did
good
the practice
nights
ones
at around 9:45.
at Dress.
So you had your pretend good night, and then you have the real live from New York good night.
Yeah.
But you don't want to repeat your moves. But you didn't want to look too thirsty, so I would always step toward the back and then make my way to the front. So by the end, I'm front and center and just
smart.
full face for everyone in America.
You know what you do? You play possum
hated it.
during Dress and you go, I don't care. I'm going to be in the way back. And then on air, I go, well, I was in the back so much on Dress, maybe I'll just squeak up there.
Remember the time I went for a high five with you and you got me in a headlock?
Just for it's any way to get the camera.
That
on
never
me.
happened. But we
Sometimes I wave. I go, hey, Glenn Close, fist bump. Hey, Michael Keaton, give him a big hug.
Yeah, and you'd have kind of, if it was a shitty show and the host was scared and their eyes were real big and they were a little bit tipsy, they go, how was it? You know, and the camera's really tight on you and you could read your lips. Not the best. No, you'd always go, it's great and you're great.
Embarrassingly enough, if I was light in the show or I was pissed off, I would boycott the good nights.
Really?
And Marcy would be like, cigarette in the hallway. Where's Spade? Spade, good nights. And I go, no. And she's like, get the fuck up there. I'm like, no. She goes, oh, you think Lauren's going to give a shit if you don't go?
And why didn't you go out? Because you weren't in the show?
Yeah, because I was mad.
Because you're mad?
And I was like, I'm not part of the show. Why would I be up there?
Wow. To me, if I had a good church chat kill, maybe come back with the Wayne's World of Hans in front and maybe Grumpy Old Man at Update,
Jesus.
I'd be happy to say goodnight.
No shit.
But you would have, you know, what, bye-bye, you'd have kill with that. You'd kill with, and you'd kill with that. You kill with it. You should totally get it. You'd kill with that.
Yeah.
And then you were kind of a...
But if I would miss, I think I went 13 shows once without being in a sketch. Maybe I was on Update once or twice, but I was like, oh.
Really? But eventually when you crushed on the show, I remember Lauren saying, David, during good nights, he has a nose for the lens. He knows how to find the camera without pretending.
This has been a podcast presentation of Cadence 13. Please listen, then rate, review, and follow all episodes. Available now for free wherever you get your podcast.
No joke, folks. Fly on the Wall has been a presentation of Cadence 13. Executive produced by Dana Carvey and David Spade, Chris Corcoran of Cadence 13, and Charlie Finan of Brillstein Entertainment.
The show's lead producer is Greg Holtzman with production and engineering support from Serena Regan and Chris Basil of Cadence 13.